talking about Ivy Tech and trying to understand, where it is and where it fits itself in the pantheon of universities and colleges we have in the state of Indiana. Let us discuss your campuses, which I honestly didn't know if we called it campuses or campi, but it's campuses in case you wanted to know. How do you pay for this stuff? The buildings that you see, the growth that you sometimes want to have. Who's paying for this?
So we have 19 campuses, 40 locations, and the General Assembly helps us with capital. But in fact, you'll be happy to know, Tony, we're actually smaller today than we were 10 years ago. We have removed almost 1 million square feet out of a 6.5 million square foot across the state of Indiana, because today we don't need as many classrooms as we once did. About a third of our students will take online classes, right? That's part of the new world, or hybrid. We will always need high quality labs. And for those reasons, we continue to need to improve the capital that we have. So we have 6 proposals before the General Assembly right now to ask them to help us upgrade. So it's not to build more classrooms, but to have world-class labs in areas like advanced manufacturing, Industry 4.0, like in nursing simulation, like in welding, and all those industrial trades that are needed. So we won't be bigger. We will serve more. And by the way, Tony, we've served 175,000 Hoosiers this year. That's a lot of Hoosiers. Now, we've got 2 million yet that don't have anything post-secondary. So we still have a long way to go, but our spaces we're not getting more space to have more space. In fact, in Columbus, we took down the old campus, built a brand new one, state of the art, that will serve that community and service area tremendously well, but it's not 1 square foot larger than the old one. And in fact, that was my rule, because we want our money to go towards our students, our programs, quality faculty, et cetera, right? So I don't want to spend any more. I'm an industrial engineer. I'm not going to spend any more money on facilities than we need to, but we have to have high quality facilities.
When you bring up this idea of virtual education, when you talk about Indiana, you're talking about urban versus rural. Mm-hmm. And how that plays out. Is there a propensity for Ivy Tech to really only be interested in one kind of student? If you're interested in the rural student, as you talk about virtual classes, is that meant for rural, or is it meant for both? And what do you do about those rural communities that don't have the internet access to begin with?
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons we're in 40 communities. So 19, which would be in our, large to smaller and medium-sized cities. We're within 30 minutes of more than 90% of Hoosiers. So even if you come from a more rural county, there are very few that you can't get to an Ivy Tech in 30 or 40 minutes from where you are. And we offer exclusively online for those students who need that. And then we have a number of virtual, what you would have called virtual options, where they're really synchronous, right? Like we're doing today on this interview. And during COVID, we provided hotspots. We have loaner laptops. So there are very few places where a Hoosier can't get access to us. They may have to go to their local library if they need, if they had no access at home. But we have made it very possible for our students, for Hoosiers across the state of Indiana, to get access to us. And it is something we care deeply about. And a community college needs to serve rural and urban. And the other thing to understand is, look, I'm sitting in Ferdinand, Indiana, my home today, before I head out to the rest of my meetings today. We have fiber to our door, right? In a small town of 2,000. That's not every town, but this governor has worked hard to bring internet throughout our state to make sure it's getting to that last mile. And thankfully, there are fewer and fewer who don't have it. And for those who don't, we can help them with hotspots, loaner laptops, et cetera.
the rural urban conversation in terms of graduates? What's the breakdown there?
That's a good question. I don't have that at my fingertips, but Tony, happy to get that to you. What I can tell you, we're in over 400 high schools with dual credit. So I know those students in most, because we're in almost every high school in Indiana, those students are getting dual credit, that early college experience starting there. So we're not leaving small communities behind. We approach every one of them. And our service areas, though a campus may sit in Columbus, Indiana, it encompasses all those rural counties around it. And those chancellors and their teams serve each one of the smaller communities. So we are not only in that small city. We believe and we cover every inch of Indiana and fully expect to serve the students, the adult learners, all those who would need us, particularly the employers and the programs they need in those communities.
Would you agree or disagree that it is harder today than it was a decade ago to get students to think of higher education, never mind an Ivy Tech education?
Would I agree or disagree?
We ask the hard questions. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
I can see both sides of it, that it is probably more ingrained in some that you will go to college, right? Where I was a first generation college student, that we would probably go, but wasn't assumed. Today, I think at probably by socioeconomic, that top half, it's assumed they will go. The other half, it is, are there other options out there because of the affordability question? I think it looks different. I think what we saw during COVID when we were doing our branding analysis, we were looking at the Ivy Tech brand. In fact, Tony, we looked at, should we change our name? And let me tell you, Hoosiers like the name Ivy Tech. It does work for us, for who we are. But we asked that to parents, to students, and we got a very clear answer that post-secondary is still valued. I think the question of, is it affordable, and in what ways is it affordable? And that's the place we fit squarely. We are affordable. $4,500 a year full time is affordable. And we can help, if you're Pell eligible, it will more than cover. I think what is where the value proposition looks different is when you're talking full freight at a residential, public, private, then that's a big investment.